Hello and welcome to episode 55 of Infrastructure Matters. I'm joined today by my wonderful co-host, Camberley Bates. I'm Stephen Dickens. We're glad to be here. Hey, Camberley, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Yeah, just the two of us again today. Nice, intimate little setting.
Oh, wonderful. But, I don't know if everybody realizes that you're my technical brother, that, we have this, odd relationship going on here that we pick on each other like brother and sister now.
Mister from another mister is my friend.
There we go. We just have to watch out for when we do it in front of like one of the vendor calls or something like that. They don't know how to take us when we pick on each other. So.
We had that dynamic on a call the other day. They're like, you two were arguing with each other in front of us, and we're like, well, that's what we do.
Well, I love a good argument. You're easy to argue with. That's the good news.
I try. I mean, genuinely though, I think the briefings that we get, the information we try and digest, you need a sparring partner to be able to contextualize it. A lot of my thinking is done with colleagues like you. We're working on some stuff we're going to talk about. Well, I heard that this way. Well, how does that relate to this? Well, I see it this way. And I think it's a phrase I like to use is I've got strong opinions lightly held. I like to come into a discussion and go, I saw it this way. And then you're one of the best at this. You'll go, oh, well, I saw it in a completely different way. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, Camberley's smarter than me. I'll change my opinion. That's typically a mindset I go through. I don't win many battles with you, but you seem to win a lot with me.
Wow. Okay.
I say it out loud for posterity.
There we go. We'll record that. So before we really get started, I wanted to do a call out. We lost one of our analyst friends this last few weeks here, Brian Gong of Pure Storage. And for those of you who are listening in that may not know how the analyst works, Brian Gong has been working as an analyst relations person with the vendors for a long time. And he's well-loved, well-liked young man, died in his sleep, which I hope I would do as well, but not at that young age. Brilliant, bright smiles always, and lots of selfies. So we want to say our heart goes out to his family, and he's very involved with the community there in California, as well as all of his friends there. So thank you very much for being part of our lives.
Yeah, it's a really sad story. I met Brian literally the week before this happened out at VMware Explore. High energy meeting with Paul and I, just super fun, smiles throughout, fantastically professional guy, just really sad. So our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends at this difficult time. I don't know where I go from here as the host, but we
take a sigh and we say that thank you, and that we're going to kind of move on to some of our
I think
other
Brian
things.
would want us to carry on and keep covering the industry and keep bringing our insights. So, as I say, tough conversation to kick us off, but we wanted to mention that. So, a couple of big topics. I don't know what order we want to do this in, Camberley. We should have maybe got a bit more organised this morning, but I'll do them in the order we've got them written down. There's some stuff going on with AWS, repatriation, data, big investments, what we're seeing in sovereign cloud. I just came from Oracle. There's some good stuff that they're doing. Maybe throw it to you and then come back to me. That we've been talking about sovereign cloud. We've been talking about investments. I think it's just one of the big trend lines that I'm seeing in the industry. Almost every week, there's somebody investing $1 billion in a cloud build-out in a far-flung part of the world. What are you seeing, and how are you kind of contextualizing this?
Well, there's been several reports, and we haven't done any research studies on this, but there's definitely this trending that's has been going on for quite some time. Whereas 5 years ago, everything was cloud first, and we shifted to which cloud, and then we shifted to where's the best place for this application? Where do you want to put it? Is it a Google, AWS, Azure, or on-prem? And now we're into, and I think part of it might be driven, part of it's driven by two things. One is the AI craze and the data sovereignty issue that's going on that is uplifted with the AI craze about how I'm going to train my data, the privacy of data, LLMs versus on-prem, that kind of thing. I think the second thing is that we've gotten to a place where the applications, whenever you get to an application status point, the next thing you do once you get to a status point and a stable point, you look at how you start taking cost out. And we've had this pressure on costs for quite some time. We're still in that mode. We're staying away from recession, but we're still in that. Nobody's quite sure about what that next quarter is going to look like. And so you have the tightening down of it. And so when you have a tightening down, you've got to look at your costs, and then you start opening up. And, a lot of people think that people move to the cloud for cost purposes, and they did not. They moved to the cloud because
we're so past that narrative now. We're so past it.
Right. They moved it, but even in the beginning, when we did the research on it and asked them why, they were saying it's because I could move so fast.
It's flexibility. Flexibility.
So now I have to look, okay, so I've got a stable. So then I look, where is the best place for this? And so that activity is going on in terms of rationalizing where do I place my applications. And we've said before on this podcast that, only about 70% probably of the enterprise applications have actually moved. Or no, I'm sorry, 30% have moved, 70% are still on-prem. So it makes sense that they will take a look about what's going over there. At the same time, they're looking at what do they do with VMware, all those rationalizations that are going on. So there is definitely some repatriation going on, but it's not like, 57 signals? Is that the right number? 57 signals?
37 signals, I think.
37 signals.
DHH in his wonderful LinkedIn and X posts.
It's not necessarily, somebody saying, okay, I'm going to take the entire thing and plop it back down. It's looking at it from a case by case, use case by use case, what makes the most sense. So we are in a world of multi-hybrid cloud, and that's where we're going to be. So
yeah, the way I look at it.
And what I'd love to hear, especially since you just got back from Oracle's conference, Cloud World, that's what it's called nowadays?
Yep.
So it's not just Oracle, it's now Cloud World for Oracle. What they were saying, because they have built, one of the best clouds in the world, I think, that have to do with the enterprise.
Yeah, I think I've been a long advocate for this. I think where Oracle is largely where my mind is. So there's a sort of meeting of minds. I think Oracle's got a balanced perspective. They've obviously got OCI, and that's growing at 45% based on the last earnings. But they've also got Exadata Cloud at Customer. So, and there's the connectivity between the two. What they announced was that they completed the set with AWS, that there's now OCI in each one of those cloud providers. So this isn't, I can get Oracle licenses through the marketplace and deploy it on AWS infrastructure. This is OCI infrastructure in an AWS data center. So I think the interesting thing for me in all of that is, you mentioned it and you said it quickly, but I think it's worth going back to. We live in a hybrid multi-cloud world. You're going to have relationships with all of the cloud providers. I was chatting to Google this week. They're seeing people start to get more balanced between the big three. So, then you see Oracle growing at 45% when the big three are growing in the high 20s. So are they getting market share? Then you also see that Dell with Apex, Lenovo with TrueScale, and HPE with GreenLake are growing massively. So I think you've got to hold multiple truths to be true at the same time. Public cloud is growing. Private cloud is also the right answer. I think, we talked about VMware and VCF9 and the sort of Broadcom pivot more towards private cloud. I come back, and I've been saying this for the last 15 years. You've got to look at workload placement. You've got to look at it as an enterprise architect through this rubric. Each workload is different. I look at it like journeys that you take. You take a journey, you choose whether you go on your push bike, like you and I ride bikes. You decide, because that's something you do for sport and for health. You're commuting to work. How far away is that? Is it down to the city like I do on the Amtrak? If I'm going to Vegas, I'm going to fly. You look at each journey and you go, what is the right platform for this workload? There is not one definitive answer. I think if, as an enterprise architect, if you carry a rubric around in your mind of give each one of these scales a mark of 1 to 10, availability, security, scalability, ESG controls, and security. Put those on a list and go, is it a system of record where my CIO will get fired if I have 5 minutes of downtime? If you start there, you're going to make some very different decisions to, is this a system of engagement where our customer can just come back an hour later and access the application?
I'm not sure if that's a decision point about where to put it, because I think that's a design criteria.
Yeah, okay.
Wherever you put it. So, I mean, the reason why we might poke at the cloud is because the cloud is 3 nines, unless you do the right job. And those people that know how to do that, you have an architect that goes in there. You just don't drop something in the cloud. You architect it with multiple regions. You architect it with, and now we're learning even more about how, the CrowdStrike thing also opened a bunch of doors to how things can go wrong again. So you have to go back and look at availability. Poor Delta. Sorry, I won't go there. But yeah, that all has, it does not obviate your need for high availability requirements design, DR design, data protection design, and security design. All of those have to go into whatever place that you're in, and that's your responsibility.
It's on you. I think we got into a point where people just went, and I'm not a fan of serverless, because I always ask the question, what server does it run on, and that freaks people. But I see the appeal of serverless because it gets you out of having to think about these things. But I think you should think about these things. Start with some of those non-functional requirements. Start with RPO, RTO. Keith Townsend on our team and I got tweaked this week because return to office is different to recovery time objective, people. Those mean 2 different things. So from an enterprise architecture point of view, I think RTO means recovery time objective. So, I think, and I will use this as a jumping off point into VCF 9, I think, because our team's been doing some thinking about this, been doing some analysis. We've got a research paper, which hopefully we put into the queue to get published today. I'm pushing the team to get that done. But it's been fascinating to sort of look through that whole space through the context of the broader conversation we've just been having. Camberley, do you want to summarize some of the work we've been doing as a team to look at VCF 9 and we'll jump off there?
Well, why don't you start with the top one, because you led that off and then I only added some of the pieces.
Yeah. So I'm happy to have it pushed back. So our team, some of us went out to VMware Explore a few weeks ago. It was the first event to sort of kick it off this fall season. Big announcements that Paul Nashwadi and I covered in a research note about VCF 9. Paul and I just went, that's probably not enough. 900, 1,000 words just covering the announcement. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot going on in the industry. We've had briefings from Nutanix. We've had briefings from Red Hat. We've had briefings from all the OEM partners as they look at
HPE, Meta, Pure.
Yeah, so
I'm going.
Yeah. So it's been a hot topic. So as a team, we've decided to collaborate on a more detailed kind of what you should be thinking about, how you should contextualize what's going on with VCF 9. I think, without stealing the report's thunder, I think it's be balanced, be measured. There's a lot of heat and noise and kind of what we're trying to do is find the signal in the noise. I think it's really interesting where a lot of enterprises are, depending on their size and their deployment of VMware, they've got some real choices to make. I think everybody will be telling you to get off. Everybody will be telling you the wonderful benefits of their particular solution or how their consulting organization will deliver a project on time and save you millions. I think there's some pragmatism that's required. I think you've got to look beyond why is that vendor and why is that system integrator telling you that? What is the success rate of IT projects to do big, what I describe as brain damage migrations? They're not that successful typically. So you've got to make a balanced decision. I think biggest driver for me there is scale of your VMware deployment. If you've got a massive VMware deployment, like some of the big sort of Fortune 50, Fortune 100 organizations, you're probably signing yourself up to a 3 to 5 year migration project. And is Nirvana going to be Nirvana at that point? So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and this document keeps growing. I think it's 9 pages at the moment, but I've got a whole bunch more I need to add today.
So to that, I mean, the report that we're doing on is more focused on VCF, where it's at, and then what are some of the other options that are along with it versus here's a migration tool. We're not doing it. So because one of the things that we've seen when I say all the different announcements, there's 2 elements to the announcements that are coming out. One is VMware renegotiated all those contracts, basically, that their OEM, if you will, the OEM contracts or whatever. And for that purpose, the main thing was the licensing and how they're licensing. And they wanted to make sure that it wasn't just reselling the VMware license, they were adding value to it. So what we saw roll out, whether it was HPE, Dell, I saw some from NetApp, we saw some Pure, I'm Lenovo, I'm probably missing somebody, so sorry if I am missing them, I can't keep them all in my head. What they showed in various and sundry ways is here is what we're doing to build a stack to make it very easy to roll in, okay? The second piece that we saw of that is that most of them were announcing some sort of service to say, if you want to get off, move to something else, here is what we are doing to provide assistance for that. We've recently also seen tools that are basically saying from them, just saying, here is what kind of cost. Here's estimate, what is the cost benefit for moving off? Because you're looking at, what is my core count, all those kind of things. One of the things that we were looking at, the lab team was looking at, is core count. In terms of how VMware gets priced and what I can get out of it. So I look at how many transactions can I pull out of a certain processor that's this size versus another processor that's this size. And does that give me a benefit? We didn't see a significant benefit when it came to a VMware licensing, unlike what we've seen with other things like SQL or Oracle on the core count. So I don't know if the new server is going to provide that benefit or not.
That's what I want to double click on in the paper. I was thinking about that overnight. I think if you've got old servers, maybe not
older than the last 2. So I'm looking at what the lab has got a regular cadence of doing some server testing and sort of that we do for certain clients. And so if we went back and looked at a version, 2 versions back, clearly there is a value proposition to.
I think that's an area I'm literally thinking about overnight. Was one of the recommendations. I think we're going to see a lot of VMware estates that stay VMware estates do a consolidation. So this is an opportunity for those OEMs. All we talk about is the new, latest, greatest server. Lots of enterprises have got servers that are 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. I think this will put some tension into the system. If you've got a 7-year-old x86 server running VMware, and there'll be a lot of those out there in the industry, do you want to take 10 of those and consolidate it to 2 and 2 brand new ones? That's probably the consolidation ratio, and you can get a lot of value from your discussion with Broadcom around your VCF licensing from that top. So that's an area where I see people being pragmatic. Hey, I could throw this all away and go to Nutanix. I could go to Red Hat. I could go somewhere else. Or could I just do some work to consolidate the estate I've got? Maybe the price goes up by 20, 30%, but it doesn't go up by 4x.
So to that end, this last year we saw enterprise servers slow down in terms of sales. If you looked at the numbers coming out of it, and both Dell and HPE and Lenovo were all reporting kind of on that. Some of them were more distinctive than the others. The one that I recall the most, and you listened to Lenovo very intently, so you maybe able to pop in on that, but HPE, they did specifically call out the double. Not only did they have the double digit, of course, on the AI servers, they had the double digit on the enterprise servers. And what they said is we're starting to see that free up. So they've been sweating those assets, if you will. Love that term. Sweating those assets.
I've always struggled with that. We've got water-cooled servers and they're sweating. But yeah, whatever.
My fourth minute into my plank, that's definitely sweating my asset there.
Yeah.
And we won't even go what that means. Anyway, so they are taking longer to take those servers. And so now what possibly we're seeing is that they're going to start turning them this next year. So we will see, and that's going to be an interesting year, because then we're going to see the battle between Intel and AMD on what server to go in, because they are definitely neck and neck on enterprise to a certain extent.
We won't get into Intel, because that would be another at least.
No. So anyway, so that's my thoughts on it. I know there are some TCOs out there that are looking at this, but you have to kind of look at them and say, okay, which one are you going to use? So everybody's will vary on how they look at this analysis going forward. So have we killed that one yet?
It's a big document, let's put it that way. If I bring it home under 15 pages, I think I'll be impressed. And that's 15 pages of text without graphics and images. So it's going to be a weighty one. So final topic on the docket today is Lenovo's AI announcement. We're working closely with the Lenovo team and Flynn over there and those guys. Lots coming through from this vendor. I think the way I'm looking at it, there's a couple of things I like about what Lenovo's doing. This AI accelerator program, they've got, I think it's 165 plus ISV solutions that they've tested and sort of packaged and built out, and have got kind of reference designs. So you can go to Lenovo now and go, hey, I want to do a generative AI project around retail store shelf management. And, your requirement's pretty specific, and it's like, there's 20 vendors that do that. I buy Lenovo infrastructure. Have you got any opinions, Lenovo? And Lenovo go, yeah, we do. We've got 5 different vendors. We've tested and certified all these. All of these, we can pull you into our facility and research Triangle Park and show you a demo of it working. And you need to buy this, and this, and then it'll work. They're not underwriting the solution. They're not giving you a complete deployment template, but they've done the first part of the work to go, does vendor A work on infrastructure B, and can I get there and get the types of things I'm looking for? And that's huge for me. Everybody is being told by their CIOs, and Flynn's phrase that sticks with me is, I need 3 AIs. Well, just get me 3 AIs. And the IT teams are going, well, I don't know what that actually means, C-suite executive, but thank you for the direction. So there's a cycle of people are reading stuff in the in-flight magazines and C-suite execs watching a podcast like the ones that we push out and going, I need some of that. I need that competitive advantage. Turning around to the CIO is going to make that happen, make it happen this quarter. That comes down, and then it's like, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it and get there fast? So the thing I like is Lenovo's thinking through that.
Yeah, that's okay. Again, I'm showing my age when I talk about this kind of stuff. But that strategy goes back to, the mini computer days, right? And you had a vertical application for every vertical that was out there. And that's what drove, went in there with your technology, but on top of that, what you needed to do was have that partnership with the application that would go in. And brilliant strategy. Love to see what they're doing. I hadn't seen anybody else do that at that level. I have seen them do it with maybe like Dell and the Starburst kind of thing, or Dell definitely published some very super stuff that went up on GitHub if you want to see applications for transportation, manufacturing, retail. So they demonstrated the capability. I believe HPE has done some of the same things in terms of their AI offerings, but not from a use case kind of discussion. Yeah. And I think that gets really brilliant, because then what I'm not only doing is that I'm saying, okay, so this vendor that's providing this software for this use case, more than likely they have companies they can point to that have some level of success deploying. That's where right now we're running up against is that deployment process. That data that, and I that would go back to, I think that'd be interesting to look at this, go back to, are they helping them with that understanding of the data management side of the house? What data do I need to have prepped and ready to go into that use case to be able to train it appropriately versus having, hallucinations come out or really bad answers and then get it out the door. So I think that what they're doing, I'm going to have to listen to that announcement.
Yeah, well, the other two sort of key takeaways from the announcement for me were GPU as a service and what they're doing with the 6th generation of Neptune. The GPU as a service, I got to get more detail on this. What I think I heard from the briefings, we get briefed before this stuff comes out, but it was a lot to cover in the hour. They've put some technology in collaboration with NVIDIA to do GPU virtualization. Is
that with TrueScale?
Yeah. So
they're using a TrueScale, which for people that are listening, that is your consumption model that they have for how you consume buy a drink.
So these GPUs are expensive beasts, $40,000, $50,000. And you don't want to point that at one application. You want to point it at multiple applications. It's almost going back to the mainframe days of doing a bureau service for your GPU. It's kind of, how do you time slice this GPU out so you can get multiple applications to be able to leverage this infrastructure? So that was one. I got to get more detail. I got to get a briefing on that. But what I heard was directionally really interesting and made it make sense to me, at least.
So are they hosting that and then you're using it as a cloud?
It's a sort of private cloud, TrueScale based consumption service
on your premise or someplace else.
You can put that in an Equinix data center. You can put it wherever you want, but it's kind of that almost private cloud like. Mm-hmm. But then taking that into GPU time slicing was what I.
You got to bring out more.
Yeah, fascinating. The other one is Neptune, 6th generation of this stuff. As part of the server acquisition from IBM, Lenovo acquired probably the market-leading water cooling business, because IBM had been in water cooling with the mainframe for eons.
But Neptune is more than water cooling. Neptune is liquid cooling, right?
It's liquid cooling. So,
liquid cooling.
Glycol, I think it is. Liquid glycol.
Yeah, it just, if you for those people that are watching, if you haven't seen these things, it kind of for a technologist, it makes you itch, because you look at it and it literally is, they'll take the cover off at the top of the cover and you can see all the liquid flowing around on top of all of the processor stuff. And you're kind of going, well, you can't do that.
I got the chance to go out to Lenovo and spend some time in their liquid cooling lab.
That was in Europe?
Yeah, right? Well, I've been out to Europe with Lenovo, but this was in RTP in North Carolina. If you love copper and intricate copper wiring, this is a nerd fest. All joking aside, the level of engineering excellence to get that much copper close to silicon and close to high-end components. These are genuinely beautiful looking devices.
Gorgeous.
I mean, it's very rare that you open we're cynical analysts who've seen all this stuff before. I walked around, they had us in small groups kind of walking around the facility, and one of the guys, deep nerd, opens up this server, and literally all of us grabbed our cameras on our phones and are taking pictures, because copper wiring in a server is just a beautiful... And I mention it because Lenovo's probably leading with that copper piece. Other people have tried braided hoses and stuff like that. Ultimately, it doesn't work. Copper wiring is a thing. You've got to be good at it. There's some really cool stuff going on with Neptune V6. So yeah. I could nerd out on copper wiring for the next half an hour, but we've got to pull this to a close. You've been watching episode 55 of Infrastructure Matters with my wonderful co-host, Camberley Bates. Please click and subscribe and do all those things, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much for watching.